Thank you everyone for coming back to my channel. I am so appreciative of everyone, especially my early adopters, those of you who are my first ones to jump in and subscribe and follow me so that you can get my videos and put on that little notification bell and all that YouTube-y stuff. So I want to thank you especially, and also the new subscribers that get to see this, who knows when. Right now it is 2025. This is the month of April, and currently my husband and I are pastoring in Ola, Arkansas, which is a rural town. But I want to be able to today kind of just back it up a little and give a real oversight of how we got here. So this will not be a long video because there's a lot of details that I will leave out over the last several years. However, I did want to say that we have been living as missionaries. Although we're pastoring, I have to have a missionary mindset. And why is that? I will tell you, is because being now pastoring when our children are adults and living in a different state is hard on my heart. But the reason I'm able to do it is because I consider myself a missionary, even though we're pastoring a church in the United States. So where did that come from? I will tell you, it came from my youth when I was a teenager. So I gave my life to Christ at 10 years old. And that was a wonderful experience, coming to the knowledge of God. I was raised Catholic, and I love the Catholic friends and family that I have. However, I was looking for something more, and what I was missing at that time was a personal relationship with Jesus. And so we started doing Bible studies and going to different places, my mom and I and my brothers. And we were able to find a church and start learning more about the Bible and reading it for ourselves. And so that led me to, at the age of 15, wanting to go on a mission trip to India with Teen Missions International, a TMI. If I have some TMI folk out there, you'll know. And I went to a boot camp in Florida. I raised money. I had donors that helped pay my way, and that was just a huge blessing. Even asking people for money for missions at that time was a big stretch of my faith, but God provided. And I was even leaving my little brother home, who was 9 months old, and I loved him so much. I was leaving him home for the summer, and this was before cell phones. We had air mail. Oh my goodness, it took like 2 weeks for my mother to get a letter from me in India, the country of India. And it was wonderful. And so I've had a heart for missions since that time. And my husband and I, when we first were married, before we had children, we went on a short-term mission trip to Mexico, which was wonderful, with a church in Massachusetts. And so that was a really wonderful experience as well. And then from there, we were youth pastors. Well, during that time, even since my husband and I got married, we were youth pastors for about 13 years. And that was quite an adventure. I wouldn't even have called it an adventure at the time. I wouldn't have called it missions at the time. However, looking back, I can see that my husband was natural with teenagers. He just was fun. He was, sassy. He had a good time with getting to know teenagers and not being affected by, teenagers, how they can be. And I was just a quieter young lady at the time. So I am really good with the one-on-one relationships. And so I made connections with the girls in the youth group individually, if they were open to it. And I wasn't pushy. I never pushed my way into a relationship with them. But I did, to this day, have relationship with several of the girls that were in the youth ministries that we were in. And so, but I still felt foreign. I felt outside of the ministry. We had young children, so I was at home, and of course some of the girls and the young teenagers, they loved hanging out with us and our kids, and that's where a lot of the relational aspect came from for me. But as far as like going in and really like reaching the youth, that was definitely for my husband. And so that was another one of those sense of being on the outside and not really on the in, not feeling like it was my country maybe. And then my husband ended up going on a bunch of mission trips. And I think I got a little bit of thing because of the, we have, it's allergy season right now. So, but my husband ended up going on a lot of mission trips, and it was a surprise to us because he never really had a bent for missions, but he caught the bug and he loved going to Africa. He went to several countries in Africa. He went to Venezuela, which was a hard trip. He went on a few trips, and I was home with nursing babies, and so I ended up not going on those, but my heart was always there. My heart was to send him. My heart was to bless other people who were going in any way that I could. And then this country girl, so I was raised outside of Albany, New York. It was definitely the country, and it was cow country. But this girl ended up, my husband and I, as I'm growing and as we're doing ministry together, we end up in the Bronx, New York. So that was definitely an experience of a lifetime, and I loved it. I love New York. I can sing the song, I love New York. That is me. I love New York because I grew up in it, but I did not grow up in the city. And I found that I loved New York City just as much as I loved being in the country. But that did have a sense of missions to it. I had people praying for us because they were so worried about us being in New York City. And so there was that aspect there as well of not being a city girl, but being there and doing ministry and our heart for serving God in whatever place that he put us. I had an experience in New York that I'm going to share with you now that really emphasized this sense of actually adventure in this world. And I really did not start labeling this as adventure until like the last 5 years. At the time, I was just living life and not really knowing what was going on half the time. But we had a teen group, a church group with a lot of young people come and serve our church in New York City. They came to do cleanup projects and any little hands-on work that they could do as as a young team. And I was at my door of the parsonage, that the church owned the parsonage, and I had gone to the door and I smelled this lovely fragrance of lavender, which I had lavender bushes outside. So I thought, oh, they're over there cleaning up. And so it must have released some, you rub it and release some of the fragrance of the lavender. Well, when I looked out, they had pulled all my lavender and it was in a big dumpster. So I had a moment. Now, I don't yell at guests ever. And so I was figured out what happened. I was like, get that lavender out of there, replant that back in the ground. Hopefully we can save this. Well, this was June and we ended up going on vacation a couple weeks later, which was hot July, and they all died. But at that time, I remember standing in the door and kind of like Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz. It's exactly what I felt like I was channeling. I tapped my heels. And although I wasn't saying, that I wanted to go home, I said, this world is not my home. And that is when I realized there's a scripture that talks about being sojourners in this world and that we are just passing through. Scriptures talk a lot about the fact that we are just passing through and that we are sojourners and travelers and foreigners in this world. And I believe that is where my mission mindset has come from. To know that heaven is my home, that being with Jesus in eternity is my home, that life on this earth is this little tiny, tiny measurement right here compared to all of eternity. And so that has taught me to hold lightly to things in this world and on this earth, and also to even sacrifice not being close to my children. We're 7 hours away right now, and that is a blessing. But I do have to consider that, not seeing my grandkids as often as I want to. That is because I'm serving the Lord as a missionary in this area. And we are now in rural Missouri. And so it is a place that really needs, everyone needs Jesus. And so if you don't know him, I would love to introduce him to you. Jesus is my strength and he's everything. He's the air that I breathe. And so I can't imagine life without him. And I love sharing him with others. So now we are here in rural Missouri, and I have, in these last few years, realized that it's not just a journey that I've been on. It's not just, this, simple journey. I feel like putting the word adventure on it gives me a different sense of expectancy of what God is going to do, a different expectancy of the adventure and learning new things and growing, and not just, being pushed along like when you're on a river and you're just going with the current. Sometimes we're trying to fight against the current and come up. But as an adventure, it means that I know my final destination, but how I'm going to get there, I am looking forward to seeing what God has, because it's more than I could ever imagine. And God has done some amazing things in our life and given us opportunities for things we never thought we would get to do. And so I love that. And that's why I call this channel the Imperfect Wellness Adventure, because wellness is everything from spiritual, mental, physical, emotional, financial. All of these things encompass wellness, and probably some more things as well. But I want you to keep that in mind, that it is an adventure, and none of us have arrived. None of us have arrived at perfection. And so, and I don't even want to, because that's not what it's about. It's about continuing to grow, having a growth mindset. And so again, I'm going to end off with perfection is overrated, but progress is where it's at. And so thank you for listening. Thank you for jumping in and hearing more about me and getting to know me. And I hope that y'all have a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful year. God bless.